Trump is only down 11 points on Harris in New York. That's incredible. And what's fascinating is Trump does pretty poorly with New York Republicans, at least compared with Harris and Democrats. But the independent signal is going really strong for Trump by 9 points. Trump doesn't do that great in the white vote, probably because of the urban vote. But in the sample, Trump's getting 40% of the black vote in New York. That is huge. And Harris is getting a Hispanic vote. Again, a smaller sample. We couldn't do everything with weighting. And 18 to 39-year-olds are breaking Harris by 13 points. Now, this is incredible. We're talking about 23 to 11. So Trump has made up, according to this analysis, over half of his loss against Biden just in the last 4 years. Now, we've been talking a lot about how, in my opinion, the battleground state polling has been lagging Trump's national numbers. And one take on that, and I think there's some truth to it, is that all of the state polling is still leaning somewhat left. I think there's also an aspect of in the battleground states, that's where most of the Democrat advertising dollars are going. But another conclusion might be that deep blue centers are breaking Trump more than they have in like forever.
That was Mark Mitchell, the top pollster of Rasmussen reports. So they are showing that Trump is only behind Harris by 11 points in New York. That would be huge. Trump obviously went to New York just a few weeks ago. He went to Long Island and declared that he was going to win New York, that he was going to fight for New York. Now, there are a lot of reasons why this poll is big news and why this is sending shockwaves through both campaigns. This has, and not even in regards to New York, even if Trump loses New York, let's say this poll is accurate and he loses it by 11 points. This has major implications for neighboring states, for Pennsylvania, for New Jersey, even further away like Virginia. So I'll get into that in a second. But this poll shows Harris at 54, Trump at 43. Rasmussen has a plus or minus margin of error of 3 points. So what that means is that, let's take Trump's number, plus or minus 3 points. That means from what Rasmussen has, 43, that means that Trump could get as high as 46% or as low as 40%. So, with that being said, they are showing an 11-point difference, but let's just say Trump's margin, they're underestimating Trump by 3 percentage points, right? The margin of error. So, let's say Trump actually gets 46% in New York. And let's say they're overestimating Kamala Harris. So, let's minus 3%. So, let's say it's actually Trump 46, Kamala Harris 51. That is actually only a 5-point difference in New York. That is within the margin of error. So that's not even, trying to discount the poll completely. I'm just saying within the poll's margin of error, they're saying that this could be a 5-point race in New York. That is massive news. So the top line number, sure, 11 points. But when you take a look at the margin of error, a 5-point race in New York, Rasmussen is one of the largest names in polling. But it's not just the polls, right? Because the poll that matters most, obviously, is on Election Day, November 5th. Get out there and vote. But we are also getting data now from these states. We get data from the mail-in ballot requests and then how many ballots actually get returned. And what we're finding so far is that in North Carolina, Democrats have lost their lead of mail-in ballots by 61.6%. So in 2020, obviously a COVID year, there was the firewall, right? They called it the firewall of mail-in votes, that, Joe Biden created a lead because most of his supporters voted by mail. And so there was this wall of votes that Trump had to overcome on Election Day. Well, Election Day isn't even here yet, and the Democrat lead in North Carolina has declined by 61.6%. In Pennsylvania, it has declined by 15.5%. When you consider that Democrats are more likely to vote by mail, even in a non-pandemic year, they're more likely to vote by mail. The fact that it is declining this much, and when we look at these numbers, just to clarify, it's not just that Democrats are voting less. It's not that yes, they are voting less, but it's not just that they're voting less. It's also the inverse. Republicans are voting more. More Republicans are requesting mail-in ballots. More Republicans are actually returning those ballots. So we have both things happening at once. So the reason this is so shocking, aside from New York potentially being, a Kamala Harris lead of 11 to 5 points based on that margin of error. But you take a look at Trump winning 40% of the black vote in New York. You take a look at him outright winning the independent vote in New York. New York, obviously, is one of the most liberal states in the country. So if he's doing that strongly in New York, then that really supports the theory, especially when you combine it with the early mail-in voting data that we have, that supports the theory that Trump is once again going to overperform the polls, that he could win Pennsylvania outright, win Virginia, win Michigan. Now, before I get into more polling data, we're talking about New York City. Well, tonight is the vice presidential debate. J.D. Vance is going to be taking on Tim Walz, and I am so excited to see Vance kick Walz in the balls. And Walz came into New York City, again, deep blue New York City, and he was greeted by Trump supporters in New York City. Take a look at this.
Trump, 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 Trump.
Here you can see the Harris campaign Vance coming. Tim Walz is inside that bus.
Get out of here! Get out of New York! New York is Trump country!
I mean, just massive. And it wasn't just that crowd. Here is another angle.
Welcome to New York!
Oops, I was wrong. That's actually the same crowd, just a different angle of the same crowd. Here is another angle from across the street. So CBS is in New York, and so both Walz and Vance are showing up. Now, to be fair, there was a crowd for Harris and Walz, but there was a larger crowd for JD that grew as the evening went on. It's 6:30 where I am while I'm filming this video. I'm going to show you a few clips showing the crowd growing outside CBS headquarters as, people are showing up to cheer on Vance. But before I do that, I want to show you this pollster that went on Laura Ingraham's show on Fox News. And this pollster is usually very negative. He is very... for those of you who watch the channel, you know that I tend to take a more conservative approach. I don't like massaging the numbers. I do acknowledge that Trump has a history of overperforming the polls. He overperformed them in both 2020 and 2016, but I don't want to just assume that, right? So I like taking things with a grain of salt because I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. Not that, I can deliver the election, but you get what I'm saying, right? I want to be as realistic and fair, and I want to be as level with you as possible. I'm not trying to, get anyone's hopes up based on nothing. So this guy's even more jaded than I am, and he went on Laura Ingraham's show and was just fawning over the good news for Trump and J.D. Vance.
Why is Slotkin concerned tonight, Matt?
Well, let me tell you why they're concerned. I've looked at polling that I've been privy to, and I'll probably be public in the next few days. Trump is trending up in almost every single battleground state. Almost everyone. And when you ask the question, how are your neighbors going to vote? You have very shy Trump voters sometimes. Those numbers explode. And I've not seen this in ages. And you know me, I'm usually Mr. Doom and Gloom for the Republicans and Trump. But right now, I am seeing a true shift in public sentiment, not just in Michigan and Pennsylvania. I'm seeing it in Nevada, as a matter of fact. There's been a turnaround there. The only problem child right now is Georgia, and that's because the Republicans, you have two groups. Traditionalist Republicans who go way back, they're not feeling the groove with Trump right now. It's the more newcome Republicans and those who live in the exurbs and down in those areas that were hit by this storm. Let me add one last thing. Thank you for talking about the storm. I live in the center of it in St. Petersburg, Florida.
And of course, we're all thinking about the storm, and we see the huge contrast in leadership. Trump actually going down to the ground, delivering supplies, meeting with victims, cheering on law enforcement, meeting with first direct emergency responders. Meanwhile, Joe Biden can't be bothered to show up. Apparently, allegedly, is on the phone. Kamala Harris did a photo op at FEMA headquarters. What a big deal. So all of that to say, Rasmussen doesn't appear to be an outlier here. Yes, it's New York. But again, if this is true, that there's this onslaught of polls coming showing a true wave of momentum for Trump, then that, again, supports my theory that this New York poll has great news, is a great indicator of Trump's strength, not just in New York, but in Pennsylvania, in potentially New Jersey. Don't forget, they elected Chris Christie. Well, tonight is the debate, of course, and Democrats, according to Politico, are privately worried that Walz, might crumble against J.D. Vance. Now, he has a tendency, according to people who know him personally, to shut down conversations, essentially to make people shut up. He will shout them down, ice them out of the room. Well, he obviously can't do that on a national stage during a vice presidential debate, so it'll be interesting to see how he handles the line of attack. And that's why I'm so excited for tonight, because, look, obviously I'm going to vote for Trump, but JD is just on another level when it comes to his precision of language and his ability to almost surgically attack talking points that are directed at him. So this is going to be really interesting, because I think not only is it going to be an onslaught for Vance, or like Vance against Walz, but he's going to, these attacks are going to be sharp. And we could see, what kind of Walz are we going to see? Is he going to go maniac and super antsy and like flailing his hands? Like, I can't even do it properly. Like, I can't even... Like, he does this weird wave, you know what I mean? But, like, is Vance gonna trigger Walz to, like, just go spastic and be like, no, we have to vote for Joy? Like, I can't even impersonate him because he's such a buffoon. Sorry. But I try to be nice. He could be a maniac. He could explode. I think there is something naturally and intrinsically dark to Tim Walz, and he could get angry. It could be a darker side that we haven't seen of him before. He just implode and shut down and just get quiet and not... I'm just wondering, are we going to actually have a debate between Tim Walz and JD Vance, or is JD Vance going to punch so hard that Walz is going to come tumbling down? I don't know. More videos of the crowds cheering on JD Vance in New York. Now, to be clear, I'm going to show you another video from the other angle. The people across the street are not Harris supporters. Those are also Trump Vance supporters. Again, deep blue New York City. That was the Chinese Americans for Trump delegation. They actually brought a banner that you could barely see there. That was the banner. They came earlier. You can see the sun setting. So this is really fresh footage coming out of New York City. Again, here's another video confirming. I believe that was the same spot where the crowd was earlier. So if we take these polls and... according to RCP, Real Clear Politics, they are just saying if the race was held today, Trump-Vance would be at 281 electoral votes, of course 270 being the magic number. This is without massaging any of the poll numbers. This is just taking the pure aggregates and not assuming that Trump is going to overperform them at all. And obviously, if he does overperform them, then, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, Virginia could all be in play. Like, we take a look at this. Take a look at Michigan. It looks like Harris is up significantly, an average of 1.4 points. Rasmussen reports has them tied. But the top pollster, the best pollster, the pollster that got 2020 accurately, is saying Trump is ahead 4 points in Michigan. That is huge. So you combine that with the strong New York polls. That's why I'm saying here is that just because a poll was accurate in 2016, 2020 doesn't mean it's going to be accurate again. But if you take a look at all of these polls, if you take a look at the trend line, and if you take a look at the polls outside of the swing states, in a solidly blue state, in a safe blue state like New York, and it is showing that this race could be 5 to 11 points, that really spells disaster. If that is true, that spells disaster for Democrats in these other states where polls are already showing voters breaking for Trump. You combine that with the fact that Trump is winning a historic share of black voters, Hispanic voters, Asian voters, trade voters, a union vote. Like, you go down the list, and the math doesn't add up in such a way for it to be reasonably believable that this is even going to be a close race on election day. But as always, that is just my analysis, my commentary. That is what's going on from my point of view. And I'd love to hear from all of you. What do you think about that Rasmussen poll? Do you think it's legitimate? Do you think we can glean anything from a state like New York? Like, even if New York is out of play for Trump, do you think that there is enough similarity between New York, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey that gives us a feel of how those swing states are going to break? And that's the thing. Like, sure, New York is by Pennsylvania, but Pennsylvania also tends to vote, similarly to Michigan, which tends to vote similarly to Wisconsin. It's almost like this chain of dominoes, right? So what do you think about this New York poll? Do you think New York is in play at all? Even if not, do you think that poll does show anything for those other swing states? I'm curious to know what you guys think. Also, what are you expecting for tonight's debate? What are you looking forward to seeing? What do you think? What do you hope J.D. Vance brings up? What do you hope J.D. Vance presses Tim Walz on? I mean, there's so much Chinese ties, his service, stolen valor accusations, BLM riots, his comments about the National Guard. I think there's so much Vance could go in on. What do you hope? Like, if there are, it's a limited amount of time, right? So he can only get so much in. What are you hoping to see? If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me in the algorithm to reach more viewers like you. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.